Almost no one notices, but there is a precise, subtle, unsettling moment when reality begins to shift. And at that exact instant, there is no lightness, no euphoria. Instead, there is a strange discomfort, a sense of misalignment, as if the universe, instead of embracing your new desire, were resisting it. It is natural for the mind to call this an error. After all, if I am doing everything right, why do I feel this way? Why does everything seem heavier, more confusing, more distant than before? Most interpret this point as a sign that something went wrong. But what if it's the opposite? What if this discomfort is proof that the leap has already begun? Every real change reorganizes inner structures. And the first impact of this reorganization is not external, it is vibrational. The body feels before it understands. The mind resists before it accepts. And the field, always precise, simply responds to the new signal you are emitting, even if you do not yet know how to interpret it. Today, you will understand why this wrong is, in fact, a beginning. How neuroscience, the quantum field, and vibrational intelligence explain this invisible passage. And above all, how to cross this threshold with awareness, without retreating, even when everything in you wants to turn back. There is a silent paradox in the path of manifestation. The moment you declare, "I choose a new reality," is not followed by immediate peace. It is followed by strangeness. And this is not a mistake. It is vibrational realignment. The new frequency has already been emitted, but the body, the habits, and the external world are still adjusting to the new field. This interval between intention and evidence can create a sense of misalignment, as if nothing fits anymore. People, places, habits, and even familiar thoughts start to feel uncomfortable. Not because something broke, but because your vibration has shifted. What once felt like ground now feels like pressure. Joe Dispenza speaks of the difference between knowing intellectually and embodying energetically. When you affirm a new identity, "I am prosperous, I am free, I am healthy," your field begins to vibrate differently. But your biology, programmed by years of emotional repetition, is still trying to understand what just happened. That's when the sensation that something is wrong arises. But in truth, this discomfort is only the friction between two layers. The new that is already being emitted, and the old that is still trying to stand. This tension does not indicate failure, it indicates transition. You have already left the old, but you are still in transit toward the new. If you can sustain this moment with awareness, it becomes a bridge. A vibrational space where the old loses strength and the new begins to take root. The discomfort then ceases to be a reason for doubt and becomes a reminder you are crossing. And crossing always stirs what once felt stable. Your body is a living archive. Every emotion felt repeatedly throughout life, frustration, anxiety, scarcity, rejection, has become a chemical pattern. These states, though uncomfortable, became familiar. And the body, as an organism that seeks predictability, learned to recognize them as normal. When you declare a new reality, "I am abundant, I am safe, I am loved," the brain accepts this new idea, but the body resists. Because it has been trained, perhaps for decades, to respond with tension, defense, or fear. The cells literally ask for the old emotional coffee they had been addicted to. Bruce Lipton explains that the subconscious, which governs about 95% of our behavior, does not understand rational language. It is guided by repetition and emotion. And if the emotion of the new has not yet been felt as truth, the body continues to operate on the old autopilot. The result? An inner signal that says this is wrong, when in fact it is only unfamiliar. This conflict between mind and body generates a common sensation in this process. You want to move forward, but something invisible pulls you back. You say yes with words, but the body responds with no in the form of discomfort, doubt, fatigue, or procrastination. The field perceives this noise and goes into waiting mode. The key is to recognize that the body is not against you. It is only repeating what it learned. And to reprogram it, what is needed is loving persistence, to teach, with consistency and presence, a new emotional chemistry, a new vibrational flavor. And little by little, it stops asking for the old and begins to desire the new. In quantum physics, an electron does not gradually move from one orbit to another. It disappears from one level and reappears in another, leaving no trace between one point and the next. This phenomenon is called the quantum leap. and it is a powerful metaphor for what happens to you when you choose a new identity. Between the who I was and the who I choose to be, there is an interval the rational mind cannot track. A void, a suspended space. There are no guarantees, no references, no certainties. Only the uncomfortable feeling of no longer belonging to the old and not yet fully inhabiting the new. This space between realities is what many spiritual traditions call the crossing. It is when the bridge is being built even as you are already in midair. And the discomfort comes precisely from this. Your vibration has moved ahead of form. The field already recognizes your new frequency, but the body is still reorganizing itself. Gregg Braden describes this moment as the space between heartbeats, a sacred silence where everything is being recreated, even if nothing is visible yet. This is where most people turn back, because the absence of external proof is interpreted as failure. But the true leap only happens when you remain, even without seeing. This invisible space is not absence, it is germination. It is there that the old loses strength and the new begins to take energetic form. And if you can rest within it, even in discomfort, you will discover that the leap is already complete. It was only waiting for you to trust a little more. Many believe that thinking differently is enough to change reality, but thought without body is only noise. The mind may choose a new song, but if the body is not tuned, the transmission comes out scrambled. In the quantum field, what matters is not only what you say, it is what you vibrate with wholeness. The mind declares, I'm love, I'm abundance, I'm health. But the body, still conditioned by old patterns of contraction, sends conflicting signals. The heart races, the breath shortens, the posture collapses, and the field perceives this mismatch as incoherence, responding with delay, confusion, or silence. Joe Dispenza teaches that the true state of creation begins when the body is taught to feel now what you once only imagined as the future. This practice, called embodiment, turns intention into biology. Thought becomes emotion. Emotion becomes chemistry. Chemistry becomes an electromagnetic signature. The body is more than a vehicle, it is a living antenna. When it is tense, anxious, or anchored in the past, the antenna transmits static. But when it is relaxed, present, and emotionally coherent, the signal becomes clear, and the field responds with precision, reflecting what was authentically felt. That is why the work is not only mental, it is physical, vibrational, energetic. Manifestation is less about imagining and more about embodying. When the body feels as if the new is already real, it becomes a living extension of the reality you have chosen, and the field, silently, responds with accuracy. Stress is not just a passing sensation. It is a biochemical state that keeps your mind and body locked in the past. When you are stressed, your brain switches into survival mode. Attention narrows, perception closes, and all that matters is avoiding danger, even when no danger exists. In this state, it is impossible to create something new. Vital energy is being used to sustain alert mode. Your thoughts repeat old patterns. Your emotions echo fear, urgency, scarcity. And the field, faithful to your vibration, responds by reproducing exactly what you are trying to overcome. True change begins when you shift frequency, and this requires coherence. Coherence between what you think, what you feel, and what you vibrate. When the heart and brain enter into harmony, a new order begins. You stop fighting for something and start attracting what you already feel is true. Gregg Braden explains that heart coherence is both a physiological and a spiritual state. In it, biology collaborates with intention. Breathing aligns, heartbeats synchronize, the nervous system calms, and in this inner space, the field becomes more responsive, not to effort, but to clarity. Creating a new reality, then, is not the result of external attempts, but of inner alignment. When you abandon stress as a vibrational pattern and consciously choose coherence as the foundation of your presence, the past loses its grip, and the future begins to respond. When you feel that you've lost your center, that your vibration has become scrambled, or that your mind has slipped back into old patterns, it's a sign the system needs a small reset. And this reset is not theoretical. It's physiological, vibrational, and emotional. The body needs to be invited to remember the coherence it already knows. The first step is heart breathing. Inhale for 5 seconds. Exhale for 5 seconds. Do this for 2 to 3 minutes. keeping your attention gently on the center of your chest. This simple gesture communicates to your nervous system that you are safe, and safety is the fertile ground of manifestation. The second step is to activate an elevated emotion, even if nothing external has changed yet. Gratitude, compassion, serene joy, choose one and invite it into your field. Don't force it. Simply feel how it would be if it were alive within you now. Elevated emotion is the language the field understands most fluently. The third step is embodiment, teaching the body in the present what it feels like to live what you desire. Imagine for a few seconds that you are already in the desired scenario: health, love, abundance, freedom. Notice your breath, your posture, your internal rhythm. Let your body memorize this new state as real. These 3 steps, when practiced with intention, create a clear vibrational signature, a new signal that the field records, recognizes, and begins to respond to. You're no longer trying to get there. You are telling the universe with your biology and your emotion, I already am this now. And that changes everything. Relapse is not a sign of failure. It's a natural part of reprogramming. Like any system in transition, your mind and body will sometimes seek to return to the familiar. The secret is not to avoid this oscillation altogether, but to cultivate practices that dissolve it with gentleness and consistency. One of these practices is brief and frequent coherence. 3 times a day, upon waking, in the middle of the day, and before sleep, pause for 90 to 120 seconds. Breathe in the 5-fast rhythm, bring in an elevated emotion, and feel yourself inhabiting, even for a few moments, the vibrational state of your desired self. A short time, but a deep vibration. Another resource is invisible anchors, small everyday gestures that function as portals of reconnection. Whenever you touch your phone, open a door, or pour a glass of water, use that moment for 3 conscious cycles of breath and emotional alignment. These tiny pauses keep your frequency clean throughout the day. And when you notice control starting to creep back, that urge to predict, to understand, to mentally resolve everything, ask yourself one simple yet powerful question. How would this be if it were simple? This question dissolves ego tension and invites the field back into its natural flow of creation. Micro-practices are not about rigid discipline, but about subtle devotion. They are living reminders that you can choose at any moment to return to center. And the more often you return, the less you get lost, the less you relapse, the more you vibrate. And the field, with its silent intelligence, responds in sync. There comes a moment in the journey when everything seems still. You are doing the practices, holding the intention, cultivating coherence, but the external world remains unchanged. At this point, it's easy to believe something has failed, but this apparent delay is not a setback. It is the time required for the new to stabilize. Neuroscience calls this neuroplastic delay. For a new pathway to consolidate in the brain, it requires repetition and safety. Your neurons are literally creating new tracks, and that demands vibrational consistency. The old was automatic. The new needs nourishment until it becomes natural. In quantum physics, the new already exists, in superposition. This means all possibilities are available simultaneously. The fact that you don't yet see the physical manifestation doesn't indicate absence. It indicates that you are collapsing the reality little by little as you hold the new frequency without turning back. This is the point where many give up. They confuse the absence of proof with the absence of response. But the field does not respond to immediacy. It responds to sustained coherence. To remain steady in this interval is a sign of vibrational mastery. This is where the leap consolidates, even if still invisible to the eyes. The delay, therefore, is not resistance. It is integration. It is the moment when your biology, your field, and your consciousness are aligning so that the new is not just possible, but stable. And the universe, which has never been silent, is simply waiting for you to decide, will you return to the old or sustain the invisible until it blooms? The crossing between the old identity and the new vibrational state is not marked by fireworks. More often it happens in silence. But there are subtle and deeply meaningful signs that something is changing within you, and recognizing them is essential to avoid retreating when the old tries to return. The first sign is the decrease of automatic reactivity. Situations that used to trigger impulsive responses now find you calmer, more present. You begin to notice a pause between stimulus and response. That pause is vibrational space. It is freedom emerging. Another sign is the increase of small synchronicities, an unexpected invitation, an insight during an ordinary commute, an idea that arrives with ease. These moments are not random. They are adjustments from the field, signaling that it is already organizing the new reality around your new vibration. You also realize that even when the external scenario looks the same, it feels lighter. The same people, the same challenges, the same commitments. But now, your inner response is different. Less drama, less identification with the problem. This is coherence stabilizing. These signs are like the break of dawn. It is not yet the full sun, but the darkness is already retreating. And if you continue to sustain this state even without major external proof, soon you will see that the reality around you has no choice but to reflect what you have already become within. Even with all practice, even with growing coherence, there will be days when the weight returns. The body feels heavy, the mind restless, doubts resurface, and it is precisely in these moments that you must remember, this is not regression, it is only transition turbulence. When this happens, stop, sit, breathe. Use the 5/5 breath, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. Bring your attention to the center of your chest. This alone is enough to calm the nervous system and exit defense mode, just 90 seconds. But they reopen the space of choice. Then, name what you are feeling, without drama. Simply observe. This is the void between timelines. By naming without resistance, you stop being hostage to the emotion. You become a conscious witness to the deprogramming process. This weakens the old pattern and makes room for the new to reinstall. Next, elevate your vibration with a chosen emotion: gratitude, compassion, serene love. Invite it for 60 to 90 seconds, even without an external reason. Then do a mini body rehearsal. For 30 seconds, embody a gesture, a posture, a tone of voice from your future self. This embodied simulation signals to the field that you are sustaining the new. And finally, release control. Silently repeat, trust collapses faster than control. This phrase is not magic, it is vibration. It returns command to consciousness and removes the ego from the cockpit. And then, even in turbulence, you continue the flight, not by effort, but by frequency. Discomfort is not a system error. It is the truest symptom that your vibration has shifted. It arises not because you are failing, but because your old identity is losing strength, and the new is still gaining form. It is the sound of the cocoon breaking, even before the wings fully open. Coherence does not demand proof. It precedes it. It does not wait for the scenario to change in order to vibrate differently. It vibrates differently, and the scenario changes in response. This is the silent pulse of true manifestation. To feel before seeing, to trust before knowing, to sustain even without guarantees. If you are crossing this void between the old and the new, do not retreat. Do not interpret the heaviness as a sign to stop. Interpret it as evidence that something is being reprogrammed in the invisible layers of your reality, and that if you remain, soon everything around you will mirror your new vibration. Leave your command in the field, and anchor it in the body. I reset my nervous system into coherence. I trust the void, the leap has already begun. Because in the end, absence is not denial, it is transition. It is the space where the miracle organizes itself in silence, waiting only for you to sustain.